Yes, so first for collecting information about the novel and about the writer, we used the homework that we were given, the articles and the reviews which we read. And these were published by recognized newspapers and websites. And of course a review includes a personal opinion about the novel, but we consider the information about the novel trustworthy, since a review wouldn't work or wouldn't be useful if the information about the novel wasn't correct. So yeah, we therefore consider these sources reliable. Then we use different methods in order to analyze and get a better understanding of the novel. For the characterization of the characters, we used Freud's psychoanalytical model in order to get an understanding of the character's personality and why they react as they do. To analyze the language, we used the text linguistic analysis as well as the social linguistic analysis to describe and categorize the language. And to analyze the settings, we have used the social historical analysis to describe and get an overview of the different settings. We used the biographical analysis in order to get an understanding of the writer Chimamanda and why she writes the way she does. Lastly, we made use of the taxonomical levels, or the taxonomic levels, when we first described the book or the chapter that we were given, then analyzed it with the methods, and lastly discussed how historical events influenced the book, which we concluded on in our perspective.
Omar with me, who is going to describe the text.
So Americana is a novel written by Adichie, which was published in 2013. Ifemelu is a young lady from Nigeria, which at the beginning of the novel, she lives in the Princeton in New Jersey, on a corporation at the Princeton University. At the beginning, Ifemelu showed what she likes and dislikes about the city, as Ifemelu considered to go to Trenton to braid her hair in a salon. On her way, she had a conversation with two passengers, as she went to add the reflection about the black people in her blog. She likewise gives more background about the existence life change she's making, feeling attracted to leave Princeton, and her relationship with an African man named Blaine. And she also reflects about her breakup with Blaine. After Ifemelu arrived to the salon in Trenton, she met a hair braid worker named Aisha, which Ifemelu didn't like so much. Ifemelu mailed her first love Obenzi, letting him know that she's coming back to Nigeria.
And here again, Sasha, to characterize the persons in the book.
We start off with the main character Ifemelu. She is originally from Nigeria but moves to the US for study purposes. Then she is black. Her skin color is discussed a lot in the novel, and it is also the topic of her anonymous blog. She's very intelligent, which you can tell by the success on her blog. Another important topic for Ifemelu is her hair. When she's talking with Aisha in the hair salon, Aisha asks why she haven't relaxed her hair, and to that Ifemelu answers, "I like my hair the way God made it." She values how she looks naturally and will not change her looks in order to fit into the American society. In general, she does not have the understanding of the way Americans describe others. In America, she's just black. She's also fat, which in America is equivalent to something negative, which Ifemelu has not thought about before. It is first when she has been harassed by a man in the supermarket that she discovers that she's also fat, or big as she rather call it. The new tightness, this is a quote for the book, the new tightness of her clothes, the rubbing together of her inner thighs, the softer rounder parts of her that shook when she moved, she was fat. Now we have described her appearance. If we look at Freud's psychoanalytic method, we can tell that Efemelu is a well-thought, reflective, and reasonable person. You could therefore argue for that she is controlled by her ego or even her superego, because she has very strong values on racial issues. If she was more controlled by her ID, she would probably confront people right away when she get inappropriate or racist comments. Instead, she used her blog as a way of describing her frustrations. The fact that the blog is anonymous also shows that she does not do it for the recognition or fame, but only to enlighten about the issue of racing or the issues that she's facing.
Here we have Frederikke that will tell us about composition.
Yes, so the novel starts in media res with the description of summer in Princeton. The reader is thrown directly into the novel and are being introduced to where we are and who we are following. The way that the novel is being started also gives away what kind of genre we're dealing with, which is of course a novel. The first chapter that we are analyzing are being told chronologically. However, the main character Efemelu is looking back at her time in childhood in Nigeria, and this is also where we meet her first love, Ubense, who was an important character in the novel. Yeah, and then just an example of the flashback. It's not a flashback, but it's a look in the past. Yeah, and the reader gets a better understanding of who she is and who has entered her life through these kind of look back at her past.
And now the setting.
Okay, so the novel Americana is a story which takes place in the US. The novel is written in 2013, but we believe the action has been taking place a little bit before. And this can be seen as the way that she has an online blog, she rides the train, and the fact that Barack Obama had just been elected as president kind of gives it away that it should be around 2009. And yeah, our character moves around in different social classes in the beginning of the novel. She starts off with being in Princeton, which is for the more higher social class, there's not a lot of black people, and there's especially no salons for her afro hair. Then the novel takes us to Trenton, which is the place where the salon is. There's a lot more black people, and there's a lot of kind of ruined streets and more it's more like a ghetto. Yes. These kind of different settings also goes hand in hand with the theme that the writer wants to focus on, which is racial inequality, and this is also shown in the settings because we can see the difference from the higher social class and the lower social class. The language, through the text linguistic analysis, we can see that the author hasn't used a lot of metaphors, but they did use a lot of imagery, especially in the beginning when describing Princeton. And also when she wants to describe the salon, it is very precisely described, which gives the reader a better picture in its mind, and we are able to see it and be there with the main character. Another thing we wanted to focus on in the language was the way that the women in the salon were talking, and for that we used the social linguistic analysis to describe her dialect, because the way that she talks about the man in the TV, like she says, no, bad father, bad man, it's not really a real sentence, but it is her way of speaking, so that's why we can see she kind of has a dialect.
Noma will tell us about the narrative.
So in the chapter we were given in the story, there's a third person narrator. It's not the character that is given in the story, but someone who is observes from the outside the story. The narrator is a limited omniscient narrator, because the narrator knows what is going from Efemelu's point of view. And the narrator is also objective, as she does not have an opinion, but only describes Efemelu's decided that she didn't like Asia at all. This gives the reader an insight in Efemelu's thought, and by her personality, while still seeing the situation overall.
And then we would like to know a bit about the author.
Yes, so the author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is of course a Nigerian author, and she's born in 1977, so she's 40 years old now. And then she started off writing her own, which mainly has taken inspiration from her own personal life and things that she's experienced from her parents and so on. And we see this in Americana, which is about traveling from Nigeria to US to study and experiencing love and race and racism and having a blog and so on, identity and differences and so on. So Americana is very easy to see the similarities to Chimanda's own life and how she moved, of course, from Nigeria to US. And Ifemelu here will then be the equivalent to Chimamanda, of course, who also, Chimamanda herself splits her life in two places, both lives in US and Nigeria. So Chimamanda's writing form is that we can see her own life. It's very apparent in some form or shape throughout all of her stories, and that is why people relate so closely. Although the stories mainly are fictional, they are very close to reality and very lively, and people are intrigued by her powers of writing.
And we would like to know a bit about the theme and the message.
So the primary theme of the book is all about realizing and questioning many things in life. And basically this book is about race and racism, which fills the story with both analysis and critique of race and racism in America, in England and Nigeria, and contains Chimamanda's own observations on the subject. So in Nigeria, for example, Ifemelu doesn't consider herself as black until she comes to much more diverse America, where she's met with norms and rules that she's not used to. And the theme appears all over the story in almost every chapter, but especially also the first one. Identity is also very important, as well, as the plot follows Ifemelu and Ubinse as they grow up and are to find their place in life and in the world, of course, and also in two different physical places where they don't feel quite comfortable. And also we have a theme about romantic love between Ifemelu and Ubinse, which is a central plot that binds the book together. And this idealized teenage love that gets broken apart because Ifemelu relocates to US, and her depressive period where she cuts off all contact with Ubinse, of course. So the message of the book is that racism, of course, still exists subconsciously, and that people generalize ethnic groups and expect all of different racial groups to do the same. Ifemelu also described that she first felt black, she really felt black when she came to America. She could really feel that she was different. And this is an important part of the message, since it shows how Americans likes to put everything that looks the same into different boxes to split people up, of course, over the perspectivation.
Yes, so this novel comes across some issues that has been discussed very much in the US lately. She reflects on a lot of problems from the 21st century in America, Great Britain and Africa. Racism is a very tough subject for many Americans because of the history with racism, so the segregation between races and the slaverism, and it has created a lot of deep wounds between the African Americans and the white Americans, and it is therefore not a problem that is easily solved. Many believe that racism isn't a part of black people's lives anymore, but yeah, it definitely is, and this we can see through, for example, the new thing that has been up lately, the Black Lives Matter movement, which was recent in 2013 to 14. This started through social media with the hashtag Black Lives Matter, and they especially focused on police violence, and definitely also the violence and the verbal violence they experienced in the streets, and also how the media didn't bring up these stories about black people and how it wasn't made important. So yeah, that's why we kind of made a perspectivation to this, because we believe it is very important, and it still is the same message that they want to come out with. So yeah.